but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeat in round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Guskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Balyak 6-2, 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in the history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Kalimpong sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethell to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethell returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeat in round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Guskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Balyak 6-2, 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in the history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Kalimpong sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethell to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethell returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder, who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeating round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Buskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Belyak 6-2. 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in the history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Callum Ponga sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethel to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethel returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder, who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeating round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Buskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Belyak 6-2. 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in the history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Kalimponga sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethell to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethell returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder, who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Alina Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeating round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Guskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Belyak 6-2. 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in the history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Kalimponga sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethell to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethell returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder who joined from Benfica for 107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeat in round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Buskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Belyak 6-2, 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in the history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Callum Ponga sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethel to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethel returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder who joined from Benfica for 107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeat in round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Buskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Belyak 6-2, 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in the history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Callum Ponga sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethel to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethel returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder, who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeating round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Buskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Balyak 6-2. 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Callum Ponga sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethel to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethel returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress, with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder, who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032. Manchester United are closing in on their first signing as well of the summer. That's according to reports. Atalanta midfielder Ederson is said to be that player, with a £35 million deal close to being put into place. Elsewhere, and in tennis, world number 2 Elena Rybakina has become the biggest name to exit this year's French Open after she lost 3-6, 6-1, 7-6 in the second round to Yulia Starodubtseva. It was also a defeating round 2 for Britain's Francesca Jones. She went down 6-love, 7-6 to Marie Buskova, but third seed Iga Swiatek is through to the third round. She eased past Sarah Balyak 6-2. 6-3. Elsewhere, and in Rugby League, New South Wales staged arguably the greatest comeback in history of State of Origin to beat Queensland 22 points to 20 in Game 1 of this year's series. New South Wales were trailing 20 points to 6 with 23 minutes left, but Queensland had Kalimpong sent off, and New South Wales were able to capitalise with Ethan Strange, Nathan Cleary, and then in the 78th minute, James Tedesco all crossing. Tedesco's try levelled the scoreline before Cleary was able to put the resulting conversion between the posts. Finally, in cricket, England expect Jacob Bethel to be fit for the first test against New Zealand at the start of June. That's despite the finger injury that forced him to leave Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign early. Bethel returned home over the weekend after sustaining the injury to his left ring finger. He has since undergone a scan, and England will continue to monitor his progress with the first test set to get underway at Lord's on the 4th of June. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Barcelona are closing in on the signing of Newcastle winger Anthony Gordon, with the clubs locked in what has been described as advanced discussions, and a fee is close to being agreed. Barcelona have moved to the front of the queue to sign the England international, who had held talks with Bayern Munich, but it's understood Newcastle's valuation of Gordon was a stumbling block in that potential deal. A couple of other transfer lines to bring you. First of all, Enzo Fernandez reportedly wants to leave Chelsea after they failed to qualify for Europe this season, but the club would demand a fee of around £120 million for the Argentina midfielder, who joined from Benfica for £107 million in 2023 and is under contract at Stamford Bridge until 2032.
European trophies. It's certainly going to be a massive occasion. But moving on to the team news and starting with Crystal Palace, the big news from them is that Adam Wharton is past fit to start. He came off after a bit of a 50-50 ankle injury in the game against Arsenal last time out, but he is in the starting 11. He's one of 6 changes in total from that 2-1 loss against the Premier League champions on the final day at Sellers Park. 2 changes in defence as Klein and Lerma are replaced by Cambo and Lacroix. Change at left wing back as Cardenas is replaced by Mitchell. Change in midfield as Wharton is in place of Hughes, and then 2 changes in attack as well as Devaney and Strand Larsen met with Firmino and Mateta. So the full lineup for Oliver Glasner's team as follows: it's Henderson in goal, back 3 is Riyad, Lacroix and Cambo, Mitchell, Kamada, Wharton and Munoz ahead of them, with a front 3 of Sarr, Mateta and Pino. For Rayo Vallecano, they've done the changes even more than Crystal Palace from their last game, 9 in total from their 2-1 win over Alaves in La Liga. The only survivors being Valentin and Garcia. So it's Pataya in goal, back 4 is Ratiu, Sis, Lejeune and Chavaria. Valentin and Lopez is the midfield, with De Frutos, Palafon and Garcia in behind Alamo, who starts up front. It's an 8 PM kickoff for Crystal Palace against Rayo Vallecano. Not long now until kick-off in Leipzig for the final of the UEFA Europa Conference League. It's Crystal Palace taking on Rayo Vallecano in this one. Both sides vying for their first ever major European trophies. It's certainly going to be a massive occasion. But moving on to the team news and starting with Crystal Palace, the big news from them is that Adam Wharton is past fit to start. He came off after a bit of a 50-50 ankle injury in the game against Arsenal last time out, but he is in the starting 11. He's one of 6 changes in total from that 2-1 loss against the Premier League champions on the final day at Sellers Park. 2 changes in defence as Klein and Lerma are replaced by Cambo and Lacroix. Change at left wing back as Cardenas is replaced by Mitchell. Change in midfield as Wharton is in place of Hughes, and then 2 changes in attack as well as Devaney and Strand Larsen met with Firmino and... Well, good evening. It's a very warm welcome to this independent, unofficial off-tube studio commentary. It's the UEFA Europa Conference League final. Crystal Palace taking on Rayo Vallecano. Both these 2 clubs vying for their first ever major European trophies. What an occasion it's going to be in Leipzig as Palace get the first sort of attack of the game. Sarr almost been played through. It's a full-out stadium as well in the German city. Atmosphere is certain to be absolutely fantastic for this one. Both sides bringing big sets of ultras. Around 22,000 Palace fans expected to be in the stadium this evening. We'll see already what fantastic displays they've come up with, and they've got a chance here. The doors, they've gone out for a throw in here. Daniel Munoz is going to be taking it. It's going to be launched straight into the penalty area as well. Palace coming into this one as the favourites, you would imagine. Vallecano have had a decent season in La Liga, finishing 8th, their highest ever La Liga finish as well. Ultimately the throw-in from Daniel Munoz. It's headed behind, it's come off a Palace man last and out for a goal kick. Not been the greatest season for Crystal Palace in terms of the Premier League, still comfortably avoided relegation in the end, but tailed off as they were prioritising the Conference League. Oliver Glasner, of course, taking charge of his final ever game as Crystal Palace manager. He's already certain pretty much to go down as their best ever head coach as well. Won the FA Cup, of course, the first ever major domestic trophy. Can he follow it up now with a one in Europe? It's myself, Joshua Makin, alongside me is Luke Ashurst taking you through this one. And Luke, what a fantastic final we've got on our hands.
Yeah, huge occasion for both sides, as you've already said, Josh. First European final for both teams. It's Palace's first season in Europe. It's only Vallecano's second season in Europe, so they've both done very, very well. A historic season for both, it has to be said, and a final game in charge for both managers. Obviously, Oliver Glasner departing, we don't know where for just yet come the end of this season. Inigo Perez, we know, is going to be joining Villarreal in the Champions League next campaign, which is a great move for him. But yeah, a huge night for both clubs, potentially the biggest in both clubs' history. What a joy it is to be able to watch it. You can tell the atmosphere is bouncing because there's a sort of a haze across our pictures where you can tell that the pyros have been set off.
Yeah, we could see before the game kicked off, the fans were already absolutely loving it. I think they've all been in the stadium for quite some time before kick-off as well, just helping to build up the atmosphere. What a night it is for all those supporters inside the stadium. Moving on to the team news zone for Crystal Palace, the big news for them is that Adam Wharton is fit to start in this one. He's into the midfield. He's one of 6 changes actually from a 2-1 loss against Arsenal on the final day. Henderson is the goalkeeper. A back three of Riyad, Lacroix and Cambo. Interesting that Chris Richards only passed fit enough to make the bench for this one. In front of those three, it's Munoz, Wharton, Kamada and Mitchell. And then a front three, of course, of Pino, Mateta and Ismaili Sarr. We'll bring you Vallecano's team in just a moment. It looked like Palace had a bit of space to work with there. Didn't quite work out in the end, and Vallecano might be able to get forward in the form of the Romanian right back Rateu. But for Vallecano, well, they went even more extreme with the changes for this one. It's 9 in total from their 2-1 win over Alaves on the final day of La Liga. Only 2 survivors from that game are Valentin and Garcia. So it's Batalla in goal. Back four is Rateu, Sis, Lejeune and Chavaria. It's Valentin and Lopez in the midfield with De Frutos, Palafon, Garcia in behind Alamau. Here's Mateta surging forward for Palace. He's played in Sarr. It's a crucial intervention though from Lejeune, who just gets himself in front of Sarr. This is probably player of the season with the amount of goals he's contributed for them. And a bright start by Palace.
Yeah, it is. They're trying to use their pace to their advantage this evening, which you can understand. Coming into this one, they are going to have to be firm in the challenge and make sure that they don't shirk out of anything, because this Vallecano side know how to put a challenge in, and they're also dangerous themselves on the counter-attack. Not to cover their first leg at home against AEK Athens, and I believe it was the quarter-finals earlier on in the season in this competition, and they were really, really solid defensively. Florian Lejeune had a fantastic game in that one, as did Pathé Ismail Sis, and then the likes of Ilyas Akamash, who's on the bench this evening, really offered a lot of pace on the counter. So something to bear in mind for Palace. I think we've got 2 fantastic sides who have got really interesting styles of football, and it could really pose to be quite the entertaining game.
Yeah, it really should be. Crystal Palace have won a free kick about 25 yards or so from the goal. Adam Wharton is the man standing over it. Of course, scored his first goal for Crystal Palace recently with that one away at Brentford. He's going to chip this though towards the far post. Munoz has just peeled off the back of his man there. My apologies, it's actually Lacroix. Good ball back towards Pino now, the Spaniard. Ball into the box is a good one. Mateta going up for it. It's just behind him in the end, and ultimately that will go out for a throw-in to Crystal Palace by the sounds of things. Lejeune not happy about that one. Former Newcastle defender, of course. 5 minutes gone in this one. Still goals between Palace and Vallecano, but perhaps unexpectedly is Crystal Palace taking the game to Vallecano early doors in this one. Munoz is going to go over towards the left side this time to take the throw-in. We already saw that sort of long throw-in in the first few moments where he managed to actually get it that far in the end, but he's going to try it again now. Mateta just trying to get away from Lejeune. Munoz is posed for the long run-up. Crystal Palace's number 2 has had an up-and-down season, so that injury didn't help him out after a fantastic campaign last year. Munoz though, eventually it begins his run-up. It's a high and looping one into the air, not the greatest clearance away, but Vallecano should deal with this one. It's back out towards Munoz though, now chipped back in by Wharton. Lequois wants to go and attack that one. There's been a free kick given up for a handball. 6 minutes in, still goalless.
Yeah, good start though from Crystal Palace. Although, as I mentioned, Vallecano will not mind in the slightest having to do a decent amount of defending. They will have prepared for that. They know that's likely to be the case, and they're well drilled in their defensive setup. You know, it sounds daft saying that they're the underdogs when they're up against Crystal Palace, but on paper they certainly are. So they're very much aware that they're going to have to settle in at times this evening, I should say, and take their chances. But how often have Vallecano been the underdogs, not only in this season but in their history? And it's certainly in recent history they've proven to be pretty good at playing the underdog role and succeeding as they look to try and come forward on what you'd say is their first attack this evening. Yeah,
it's all the way back to Valentin in the end, but it really is a massive underdog story for Rayo Vallecano. If you think Palace have done well to get to this stage of the competition, then Vallecano, I think, blow it out of the water. The third club in Madrid, of course, shadowed by their two massive neighbours, just in a little neighbourhood of the city. Stadium is pretty much crumbling apart. They're the only professional club in Spain as well where you can't buy online tickets. You have to go to the stadium in person to do so. To get to the final of a major European competition is some achievement from them. If they can go one further, it will certainly be a massive piece of history. But they're having some extended spell of possession for the first time now in this game, and ultimately Chavaria can drive forward. He's up against Wharton now, and he wants that pass towards Garcia out on the left. He gets it as well. Up against Munoz now, left-footed cross into here. It's a decent one. De Frutos thinks about coming for it. It's easy in the end though for Henderson, just plucks it out of the sky, and that's Rayo Vallecano's first attack.
I think that's what they need to look to do more often though. Ismail Assar took far too narrow on that occasion, allowing Chevalier just to run towards Wharton and end up one-on-one with Daniel Munoz, and then Alvaro Garcia has got a great delivery on him from what I can remember last time I saw him play. So that's certainly a route for Vallecano to come forward. Yeremy Pino's is a much wider winger, at least in this Glasner setup. So they're going to struggle to get the space with Ratiu on the near side. But over on that far side, I certainly feel like they're going to get the space with Chevalier and Garcia.
Yeah, they certainly will. Long ball forward, and Lequois got some thinking to do there. He actually defends it really well against Alamau. He's got the winner in both legs of the semi-final against Strasbourg. Palace might be able to launch an attack now. Wharton brought down though just before the halfway line. That's going to be a talking to as well there for De Frutos. Almeida actually made the run backwards. Adam Wharton in some possession though early doors. Can see that De Frutos just a little bit late of his challenge.
Yeah, it's what Adam Wharton's so good at doing, isn't it? Going through the gears so quickly through midfield. I can't believe it, Vallecano and Inigo Perez, but Maurizio Mariani, the Italian referee, had no choice but to blow his whistle there because there was a bit of space for Wharton to step into, and he was brought down without any attempt to play the ball. I think it's fair to say a good decision from the Italian.
Yeah, no card produced there from Maurizio Mariani. But in the end, want to keep his cards in his pocket for as long as possible. Pino lining up the shot there from range. It's charged down almost instantly though. Now towards Munoz. Nice flick into the box as well. Sarr brings it down. Might get the shot off. He tries to go for it on his left foot. Not sure it was the best option in the end. Kamada was arriving on the edge of the area. Sarr going for goal himself. Ultimately deflected though, and into the hands of Batalla.
He knows that was the wrong decision, Ismail Assar, and immediately apologised, but it's just 9 minutes into a European final. You can understand why he's gone for it. He could see his name up in lights, and it written in Palace history. Ismail Assar, goal scorer of the opening goal in Palace's first ever European final, but Kamara was stepping onto it nicely. Even Pino running onto it on his right boot were both really good options. That was almost a decent opportunity as Vallecano struggled to play out from the back. Wharton steps in well, feeds Pino, who looks to feed Mateta. It may have been offside either way, but the pass overhit and not close enough to the Frenchman, and Batalla ends up with the ball back at his feet.
Yeah, it was just coming back from an offside position. There was Jean-Philippe Mateta. It was quick thinking from Pino. In the end though, didn't quite work out. Of course, he's going to be boosted by the recent news. He's in the Spain squad for the World Cup. Here he is now again in the centre. It's just brought down there. He's not going to get a free kick though. Palafon can bring this one forward. He stayed down as Pino, but Vallecano don't care. They're still going to attack now with Garcia over on that left-hand side. Ball comes into the box. It's towards the back post as well. It was actually De Frutos with the cross into the area. Garcia picks it up over on the other side. Ratiu now. He'll go for the cross into the area. It's high and looping again. Too close towards Dean Henderson. Delivers into the box. Got to be better than that.
Yeah, they need some better options inside the penalty area to Vallecano. Alamau is a physical presence, but he doesn't really make the runs you'd like to challenge the likes of Lacroix, Canvo and Riyad. I look at it and I go, Lacroix, obviously the French international, going to the World Cup with Didier Deschamps' side, so a hell of a lot of quality there and experience. But in Shadi Riyad and JD Canvo, you've got two immensely talented footballers, but two very inexperienced footballers. I've seen a lot of JD Canvo this season, and I've seen a lot that I like from JD Canvo this season, but I've also seen signs that show that he has got a lot to learn. He is, of course, only 19 years of age, but you can tell on occasions, and this is one of those occasions where you really hope, from a Palace point of view, you don't see his inexperience, because yes, this is an unexpected final for Vallecano, but they still have the quality because they've got to this position, and they will punish inexperience if they sniff it.
Yeah, 3 French players in this Crystal Palace starting 11, 2 of them heading to the World Cup. As Luke mentioned, Maxime Lacroix is one of them. Jean-Philippe Mateta, as well, as also made it into the squad just a bit early perhaps for JD Canvo, but definitely maybe in the future. Tie now has it at the back for Vallecano. They've got into this one quite nicely since the opening few minutes, trying to keep the ball. They're now playing it long. Alamau comes all the way back for it. Now here's Sis under pressure from Sarr and Mateta. Lejeune on the edge of his own box. He goes long and it's a great pick out to find Palafon. He's now up against Kamada. He tries to put a foot in, but Palafon does really well to keep hold of it. He brings Rateyu into play as well. Now the pass into the centre, back towards Alamau. Valentin held on to the ball. We'll go along again now with Sis. It's a searching ball over for Garcia. It's just too heavy in the end, though. Out for a goal kick, but Rayo Vallecano certainly improving.
Yeah, they certainly are. He's the man this evening, Izzy Palathon for Rayo Vallecano. Massive fan favourite, the number 7, and a real live wire. His movement is absolutely fantastic. And he got brilliant control as well, looking to try and pick up the ball in the half space in between the back 3 and the double pivot of Wharton and Kamada. Certainly worth keeping an eye on. It's about who has the quality in this Vallecano side to find him, and whether there's going to be anybody in front that he can look to try and link up with, as Palace are now going to look to come forward themselves down this near side.
Yeah, Kamada finds Mitchell as well now into the centre for Pino. Now back towards Kamada. Go with the crossfield box, a decent looking one over towards Munoz, and there's a slip there as well from Chavaria. Munoz quite take it in his stride. He will gather the ball back up by the corner flag. Chavaria's stuck with him and recovered really well in the end. He's made the challenge. He's actually come off worse for it in the end. He's conceded a throw in just by the corner flag. Didn't look much in it from Munoz. Of course, the angle against us. We'll see it again now. Munoz just trying to win that set piece there. It's just a bit of a sore one, isn't it, for Chavaria?
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a whole load of contact on the Spanish fullback. Daniel Munoz a little bit confused of the reaction there from Chavaria, but either way, the decision is just throwing over on the far side for Crystal Palace. Munoz to take again. I mean, I'll be honest, they're longer throw-ins, but they're not great. They're way too looped, and again, it'll be relatively easily dealt with by Vallecano. This time out for a corner. It's one of those where he hasn't got a long throw, just a longer throw than usual. Daniel Munoz, and he throws it in with very little pace. It's really awkward for anybody in a Palace shirt to do much with, and to me, it just feels like a bit of a waste of possession at the moment.
Yeah, never really strikes fear, does it, with those long throw-ins. Daniel Munoz, he's had a few of them already so far in this game, and neither of them have caused that many problems so far for Rayo Vallecano. A bit of sorting out too now for the Italian referee. Lots of pushing and shoving. You can see the tactic already from Crystal Palace. They're absolutely loading the 6-yard area. Rayo Vallecano have got a few in there as well. They've got 4 compared to Palace's 3, alongside Bataya. And if there's one thing we're going to expect in this game, is that Bataya is going to make the most of absolutely everything. If you've watched Rayo Vallecano this season, you know he absolutely loves to get in the face of the referee and to waste as much time as he can. Corner's finally going to be taken, though. It's Wharton to swing the ball in. A few players have gone down, and ultimately the free kick goes the way of Rayo Vallecano, and ultimately Bataya gets his way.
Yeah, he does in the end. I mean, I get the feeling that something's going to happen at the World Cup, which means that something is going to end up changing in terms of the rules of a corner kick, because they're just so messy at the moment all around the world. It's not just in the Premier League, and it's not just in European competition. It's in every division, seemingly across the continent at the moment. Apparently it's not great in Brazil either. So something is going to have to change. In the end, Vallecano get lucky and a decision goes their way when it probably could have gone the other. It's one of those where it's 50-50. But yeah, I can understand the plan from Crystal Palace, because you're absolutely right. Bataya, very vocal goalkeeper, very aggressive, but a little bit shaky when it comes to dealing with crosses. And I think ultimately Palace have got the setup right. Is Cambo almost lost out there doing a bit of defensive work? He's caught his man in the process, who I think is going to be absolutely fine. He's straight back to his feet, but he's poor from Cambo, and here comes Vallecano.
Yeah, it's Garcia into the box. He tries to cut it across for De Frutos, who was waiting for it. And as you mentioned earlier, Luke, there is a lot to like about JD Cambo. I thought we saw the best and worst of him there as he was bringing the ball out. He then tries to pass when he can't even see the man around him, and ultimately nearly concedes a goal.
Yeah, well, he's not happy, Garcia, because he feels like he got a hand in the face there from JD Cambo. That's one of those where I really don't think it's much, but he had a word with the referee. The referee, I think, did the right thing, knew it wasn't a foul, and straight away Garcia got back up, and conveniently when Vallecano got back on the attack, he was straight back up to his feet and causing problems. But Alamar does brilliantly well there. I think he's going to have to use his experience, the Brazilian, and recognise that he's not going to get much out of Maximus Lacroix. Tyreek Mitchell's going to be back supporting Chadi Riyad, so it's JD Cambo. He's got to try and outmuscle with his physicality and with his nous, and that's exactly what he did on that occasion, and almost caused a huge problem for Crystal Palace. That's a warning for Cambo. He can't be as lackadaisical as he was there again.
Yeah, inexperience in a final, maybe coming to fruition there, just about getting away with it though. Vallecano now have the ball back on the floor with the defence. They've really started to not get on top of such, but certainly maybe in the ascendancy a little bit, and there's a lot of space for them to work with. It's a big pitch at this stadium in Leipzig. They're making the most of it quite well at the moment as well, spreading it wide and keeping hold of it. It's tough for Crystal Palace players to get near them with the press. Lejeune is having a lot of touches at the back, likewise is Sis as well, who has played in midfield at times this season for Vallecano. He's done well there when he's been called upon. So moving into centre of defence, forms a nice partnership with the French defender. There's Ratiu now again for Rayo Vallecano. Moves into the centre. Back now for Sis. Mateta furthest forward alongside Sarr, trying to lead the pass for Crystal Palace. But we're 18 minutes into this one, still goalless in Leipzig. Not really any big chances so far, as tends to be the cases in big major finals. Both sides don't want to take too many risks and play to outlandish style of football. Vallecano just let it go out of play there with a long field pass. Inigo Perez doesn't look too happy about it, as Luke mentioned. He's making the move to Villarreal for next season, so he'll be coaching in Europe no matter what. Munoz now taking the throw in for Palace. He's had to wait a while with this one. Eventually finds Pino. Munoz now with a looping ball back into the centre. De Frutos brings it down beautifully, and he finds Palafon as well. Cambo coming out with it now towards Kamada. It's going to go over the top, looking for the one of Mateta. Sis trying something rather audacious in the end. Almost a scorpion kick. He gets away with it as it bounces back towards his goalkeeper, but that's quite a risk to take in a final.
Yeah, I think he'd probably say that was intentional, just to put Jean-Philippe Mateta off, but I think that'd be generous. Yeah, not convincing from the Senegalese centre-half, who, when I've seen him play, he's played in centre midfield, but as you've just mentioned, has also featured at centre-half, particularly more recently, alongside Florian Lejeune, and he's certainly got the height and the physicality to do so. So, yeah, just that moment a little bit hairy for the centre back, and I'm sure on the next occasion Mateta's not going to let that chance bypass him.
Certainly wasn't. Vallecano back on the ball now with Chavaria once again down that left hand side. Attack seems to mostly be coming for that. So really poor pass into the centre. It's an easy interception for Wharton, and what a ball that is. He chips it over the top for Pino to run on to Sis again with a mistake. Palace are crying out, and surely the first card of the game is going to be produced here. It's going to be yellow from the Italian referee towards Sis, who protests his innocence. Palace maybe wanting that one to be taken further, but just as he's made that mistake, he makes another one, and this time it's led to a Palace free kick.
Yeah, I mean, that's the absolute quality of Adam Wharton, isn't it? You know, the runs forward from Mateta is probably a difficult one to find, but you don't even see the run of Pino until Wharton plays a fantastic ball over the top to him. But it all stems from a really poor pass over on the far side from Chavaria. We mentioned that that's the side they're probably going to look to try and attack down Rayo Vallecano, but they've got to show more quality than that. But going back to the quality shown by Adam Wharton, delightful ball over the top, really good from Pino. You can tell he knows he's going to get hit, but he's just got to take it to get the free kick and the yellow card for Sis. He's now walking a tightrope for the remaining 70 minutes of the game. Fantastic though from Adam Wharton, and for Crystal Palace, they'll just feel a little bit unfortunate that they're going to get a free kick, 50 yards away, rather than a goal-scoring opportunity.
Yeah, Wharton isn't even going to launch this straight into the box. He's going to go short towards Mitchell, who's actually just behind him. It's now back for Wharton, who's further towards goal. Cross comes in. It's a decent-looking one for Kamada at the back post. Mateo stops it from going out for a corner. He levers it downfield. It's under the feet of Campbell, but ultimately back towards Mitchell. Furthest man back for Crystal Palace and doesn't want to take any risks on this occasion. It's back towards Dean Henderson, the goalkeeper, well outside of his box at the moment. 21 minutes gone in Leipzig, still 0-0 between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Henderson going long with this one. Nice ball as well. Sarr nearly finding Mateta. There's the clearance though from the Spanish side. Brought down well by Palace. Kamada now slipping it through, and Sarr is all over towards this one. He's almost in on goal. It's good alert keeping though from Bataille, who's well off his line and ultimately stops the Senegalese international from getting through. Yeah,
I think Lejeune does well, just to get a hand across his chest and hold him up. But yeah, good goalkeeping from Bataille. Lovely 1-2 touch passing in the midfield from Crystal Palace. Chadi Riyad showing his quality on the ball, stepping high up to halfway, bringing the ball down nicely and playing into midfield. Just as I say that, he's probably stepped out of position a bit too far here, and Lacroix is forced to put the ball out of play for a goal kick, whereas Ratiu was putting him under pressure. Talk about the inexperience of JD Cambo. Love Chadi Riyad, I think he's excellent on the ball, but the 23-year-old there stepped way too high up out of possession, allowed the space in behind, and it's a good job Lacroix is as quick as he is and read it well, gets across, although his clearance was poor, and now an opportunity for Vallecano from the corner.
Yeah, their first corner of the game as well now for Rayo Vallecano. We'll see what they can do with it. It's going to be Lopez, the midfielder, to take this corner. I haven't mentioned his name too much so far in the opening stages of this one. I thought Palafon might be the man taking it. He's got a fantastic left foot on him, but it's going to be Lopez instead. The outswinger, it's towards the near post. Alamau lets it run behind him, almost getting ahead to it there. He's dangerous from corners, scored from one against Strasbourg, and there's going to be another yellow card shown now in this game. It's another one for Vallecano. This time it's Palafan who goes through on his man. Again, as Palace were looking to get away on the counter, it becomes the second booking of the game. Yeah,
not sure you can have too many complaints there. Izzy Palafon. The ball is there to be won, but Tyreek Mitchell's just too quick for him, is able to poke it away. Good decision from the referee again to bring out the yellow card. Disappointing for Palafon. He'll be frustrated that that's gone against him, but I don't think the referee had any other choice but to brandish the card. And in the end, Palace get away with defending a couple of situations there pretty poorly.
Yeah, they certainly do. Henderson eventually going long, headed back and forth between Vallecano and Palace. Ultimately, Kamada and Pino winning the final ones before Vallecano can send it forward. It's only going to go towards Dean Henderson again though, but with that we have hit the halfway point of this first half in the UEFA Conference League final. It's still goalless between these two sides. A fairly nervy start, quite understandably so, with it being their first major European finals, but with that 0-0, it's going to be Luke to take us through to half time.
Yeah, cheers Josh, thank you very much. Been a really fascinating game so far in this one. Hard to really say either side has gotten on top or been able to put forward their game plan as best as they would like, but it's made for an enthralling match so far. Ball currently in possession with the Vallecano back four at the moment. Sis now, nice ball forward to Palathon. He'll move it on to the left hand side for Chavaria. Chip ball towards Alamar. Will find the Brazilian, who strikes towards goal, and it's wide of the post. Again, more inexperienced defending from Chadi Riyad as he goes diving towards the ball, caught out of position. He gets away with it on this occasion. Poor finish from Alamau, but brilliant football again from Vallecano, exploiting the space over on the far side. And I think Alamau ought to do a fair bit better.
Yeah, I think he does as well. There has never been the most convincing goal scorer for Rayo Vallecano. He might not be expecting this ball to come to him as well, though, as Riyad gets it all wrong. But he's got to anticipate there as the number 9, as the striker. And it's the closest either side have come so far by a mile to getting a goal in this one. But Palace look a bit exposed down the flanks at the moment. It's too easy for Chavaria to just get forward there. No one across the covering. Cambo is behind him and can't stop the cross from coming in. And after a positive start from Palace, do just feel like it's Vallecano who look the most likely.
Yeah, it certainly does at the moment. First real chance for either of these two sides has fallen the way of the third team in Madrid. Unfortunately, though, their Brazilian number 9 unable to find the back of the net. And Palace, now you feel, have got to reset and get themselves back into this game. Can Mateta be the one to do that? Battling away there with Pathé Ismail Sis, but the Vallecano number 6 does well to defend up against Mateta. who sees the ball put out of play for a Palace throw. Second half of the season, he's looked better, Jean-Philippe Mateta, particularly in Europe. He's found himself, I'd argue, usurped by Jürgen Strand-Larsen, at least in the Premier League in the second part of the campaign after his arrival from Wolverhampton Wanderers. But in Europe, he's been as good as ever, Jean-Philippe Mateta, and they'll be hoping that he can find himself a goal in this one to potentially round off a fantastic Crystal Palace career. Rumours of him departing this summer as there were in January. I'll break off because Daichi Kamada has knocked the ball past a couple in red and white and got Palace a little bit further up the field. Here's JD Camvo across the centre circle now for Chadi Riyad. Under a bit of pressure from Alamau, the Moroccan will drive forward towards the edge of the penalty area. Now with Tyreek Mitchell, under pressure from De Frutos, will loft the ball towards the back post. That was in a foul inside the penalty area. Munoz a little bit too eager to get there ahead of Chevalier, and that's going to be a foul and a free kick the way of, I was going to say the visitors, but it's just because they come second on the scoreboard. It's the side from Madrid that have got the free kick, as we just see a replay of that chance for Alamau. On his left boot, kicking it into his right boot. He's got to do better.
Yeah, he certainly does, and you can see it in his expression afterwards, can't you? He knows that was a big chance, that hits it off his right knee, and that's what takes it wide in the end. It's not the contact that he wanted, and I don't think Munoz can have any complaints there with the free kick that he's just given away. He absolutely wiped out his man there as he arrived at the far post. It was a really good ball in from Tyreek Mitchell. Sort of the first one he's been able to put him down that left-hand side. And yeah, nice cross towards the back post. Munoz just a little bit too late though.
Yeah, he was, and rightly so, a free kick given. Bataya taking his time over it for eventually launching it long down the far side, looking towards Garcia, but it's massively overhit from the experienced Argentinian shot stopper, and straight out of play, I believe, for a throw-in, but deep in Palace territory. 27.5 minutes gone in Leipzig. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Crystal Palace 0, Rayo Vallecano 0 in the UEFA Europa Conference League final. Throw sent down the line by Daniel Munoz, looking towards Adam Wharton. He can't quite get the ball under control, but neither can Izzy Palathon, who's put that ball straight out of play for another Palace throw over on the far side, taken quickly by Munoz. Straight down the line, looking towards Ismail Assar. Sis throws across to read it and put it out of play for another Palace throw. So he looks a little bit dejected. He's not really had a huge amount go for him so far in this one. Pino's probably looked the more dangerous of the two Palace wingers, and they've lost out here half the South London side as Vallecano win the ball back in midfield. Just as I say that, Ismail Assar does well to take the ball away from Oscar Valentin, and then Lopez wins the ball back off the Senegalese international. Here's Palathon trying to move forward. Good bit of defensive play there from JD Camvo. Sees the ball put out of play for a Vallecano throw over on the far side. All of a sudden it's almost like a pinball machine in the midfield. Neither side able to get it firmly under control. That is until this throw-in is taken by the Spanish side, and it's ended up all the way back at the feet of their goalkeeper Bataya. Ball now across over onto the Vallecano left with Garcia, and now to Unai Lopez. So Lejeune onto this near side now for Andre Ratiu, who's going to drive forward, doubled up by two in blue and red. It's Mitchell and Pino challenging for it. Mitchell does brilliantly well to take the ball away from the Romanian and keep it in play. Will then play it back to Lacroix, who looks long over the top towards Mateta. Intercepted well, though, by fellow Frenchman Florian Lejeune. And now an opportunity for Rayo Vallecano to get the ball back moving through midfield. Here's Unai Lopez onto the near side for Andre Ratiu. Back into midfield, this time for Oscar Valentin. Valentin now into Sis. Sis got options left and right. Wharton steps up to put the squeeze on, so the centre-half will fire it onto the near side for Ratiu. Mitchell steps forward to pressure the Romanian once more, as now Lejeune has it, and he goes all the way back to Bataya. You can see over on the far side, Josh, Oliver Glasner really does not look happy with his side at the moment, whereas Inigo Perez, you have to say, looks as cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, I mean, they just can't get hold of the ball, can they, at the moment, Crystal Palace? Having to do a lot of sort of just sitting back and waiting for a mistake from Vallecano, but it's not coming. They're knocking it around really nicely. It's what we've seen from them in the league and earlier in this competition as well. Just look so confident on the ball, the way they're spraying it about. And we already mentioned, didn't we, at the start of the game, that they were growing in confidence, and that's certainly crept on going. They've had that chance now as well with Alamau. They know that they can play through Crystal Palace. They've just made a little bit of a mistake there now when Riyadh can get forward.
Yeah, lovely bit of play there from Shadi Riyadh to win the ball back. Feeds a nice ball to Mateta. First time pass to Pino is a good one, but the Spaniard can't quite get it around the corner. Looking towards Ismail Assar. It's been a tale of maybe so far for Crystal Palace. As again, it's another misplaced pass looking towards Ismail Assar. And again, the interception is made and Vallecano can get the ball away from danger. Now they're looking to try and play out from the back of the Eagles with JD Canvo. Did well to feed Munoz a moment ago. Was he then fouled from behind? Yes, he was. That's going to be a free kick as Munoz was left in a little bit of a heap. Canvo decided he was going to take the ball forward himself. A little bit dangerous from the teenager, but in the end he does well to win the free kick after the challenge from Alamau. And now an opportunity maybe for Crystal Palace to get a hold of the ball themselves. Here's Shadi Riyadh just inside his own half. We'll go back to Maxence Lacroix. He's taken up the leadership role in the middle of that back three where Mark Gahey so often found himself prior to his move to Manchester City in January. Lacroix really stepped up in the absence of the England international, and rightly so, has earned himself an opportunity to feature at the World Cup with the French national team. We're going to have a bit of a stoppage here because the referee's noticed off the ball over on the other side of the field, Ismail Assar's gone down completely, well, unrelated to anything on the ball. Great spot from the Italian referee. Let's have a look what's happened here. Ismail Assar made a run round the corner. He's just been caught from behind. I tell you what, I mean, there's an instant sort of acknowledgement that that something happened there from Chevalier, I believe it was, that caught him. It almost looked like the Spaniard was going with the run of Ismail Assar, and he's just caught the man as he was running alongside him. Straight away held his hands up to apologise, but looked a painful one for Ismail Assar, and you can see why he was in some discomfort. As we're just seeing pictures of Oliver Glasner asking his side for a bit more intensity, to step up and asking more of his side. Inigo Perez, on the other hand, has one message for his side, is a thumbs up. Just to say that, we then get pictures of him screaming, asking for more intensity himself. So both managers wanting more from their sides, but that's very often the case with these two.
Yeah, of course they are. They want to see as much intensity and urgency as possible, don't they, going into this one? They both want to be on the front foot, especially Crystal Palace coming into this one as the favourites. Sarri's not happy about that challenge, and understandably so as well. I mean, the linesman was right in front of it as well. He sees the Vallecano man just sort of go off on his own run and just try and stick with Sarri, who brings him down. Palace unlucky not to get a free kick there, I think. So the game back underway with them at the back.
Yeah, back underway at the back as Riyadh will move it into Deichi Kamada. He's been man-marked brilliantly so far this evening by Unai Lopez. Not spoken much about Lopez on the ball, but off the ball he's done brilliantly well to nullify Kamada. Kamada now plays a decent ball into Wharton. That's a nice ball down the channel looking for Mateta. Holds off Lejeune pretty well initially, and then keeps hold of the ball, moving it into Kamada. Kamada now into Mateta, now Wharton, surrounded by two in red and white. Then was there a foul there on Wharton? Referee says no, nor was there a foul on Tyreek Mitchell. And now an opportunity for Vallecano to come forward with numbers driving down the near side. Palathon, decent ball down the line looking for De Frutos. Challenge comes in from Lacroix, and it's taken a double deflection out of play for a goal kick. Now, I'll be honest, I think justice is done there, because I thought there was two fouls down the other end of the field on Palace men. The referee didn't give a foul for either, one on Wharton, one on Mitchell, and ultimately the play breaks down for Vallecano down the other end. 50-50 whether it's a foul on Wharton, definitely a foul on Mitchell.
Yeah, that was my initial reaction as well when we saw it live. I thought that it was definitely a foul on Mitchell. The Wharton one is a bit more sort of open to interpretation. Wouldn't have minded either decision there from the referee, but Mitchell is clearly fouled as he gets to the ball in front of his man. The referee waves it away almost instantaneously. Good defending from the Quado down the other end, looking solid at the moment, and ultimately that's why it's still goalless.
Yeah, down the Vallecano end of the field though, De Frutos, lovely bit of defending himself to force the ball out of play. Mitchell the one after it, but it's out of play for a Rayo Vallecano throw. And there's a problem in the stands here. You can see Bataya's hit the deck. That's really interesting. He's just hit the deck there, Bataya, not even holding on to anything, but straight away was gesturing towards the crowd. And the referee, I think, is directing players towards it. He's paused the clock, and I get the feeling he might have even just pointed towards the tunnel. This is not what we want to see at all. He straight away gestured towards his watch and then has just pointed towards the tunnel. I think as the referee. It's hard to see. Ratu sat on the ball. Something's happened in the stands. We're not getting started anytime soon. Although there's thumbs up being held. This isn't good in the slightest, is it, Josh? Because you've got quite some concern from a number of players on the field, and when a goalkeeper's sitting down saying no, we're not continuing until this is sorted, that tells you it's clearly something that looks quite serious.
Yeah, we're sort of in the dark here, aren't we, about what's happened, whether there's been some sort of trouble in the crowd. It's in the Rayo Vallecano set of supporters, so I'm not sure. I don't think it's anything to do with some chants or whatever like that towards their own players. So yeah, it's sort of confusing. We'll try and find out for you what's going on as soon as possible. Of course, we're not inside the stadium. It's independent, unofficial, off-tube studio commentary. We don't hear anything from the stadium. So it's tough to see what's going on. And ultimately now for the players, it's going to be a bit of an awkward for them if the game is going to be restarting. They've already been going fairly full-blown for it. Already got into the mindset of this being a final. Now they're having to sort of wait on it. Referees constantly looking back towards the fourth official in that area of the stadium, and then back towards that corner of the ground. Obviously we've not seen anything from it so far. Glasgow now in conversation as well with the fourth official, so hopefully this can be sorted out.
Yeah, it's I'm just trying to see. It's definitely for something in the crowd. It's been a pretty warm day in Leipzig by all accounts. 24 degrees is the hottest it's got to currently by the looks of things. About 18 degrees is, we're now seeing pictures in the crowd that it almost looks like potentially someone's fallen down the stairs. It looks like that. I don't want to speculate at all, but I have to say, credit where credit's due to the Rayo Vallecano goalkeeper Augusto Batalla, who straight away recognised that there was an issue and sat himself down. Just as I say that, it looks as though he's got himself into a bit of trouble, the Argentinian, because he's now being told by Maurizio Mariani, the Italian referee, to move away from some of the Palace players. Looked like he was causing some problem there with Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's not happy with something, Augusto Batalla. Whether somebody said that the game shouldn't have been stopped, Jean-Philippe Mateta doesn't look overly happy. I mean, I'm sure we'll find out at the end of the game, but I don't really want to speculate at the moment. But I think potentially we're about to get underway. Not sure Andre Ratiu is overly happy with the decision of the referee, but the referee is now waving play on, and we are back underway as Ratiu's launched the ball out of play for a throw-in on the near side. But good to see that, by the looks of things, everything is okay, and we're back underway, and hopefully everything is cleared up in the stadium and nobody has come to too much distress. But this European final now gets underway, with Vallecano looking to move down the left-hand side, straight away looking to try and get back on the attack, maybe trying to catch Crystal Palace caught cold. As on the near side, here it is with Andre Ratiu, down the line for De Frutos, ball into the box is a good one, controlled well in the end, and the strike comes in, edge of the penalty area. Garcia laying it off for Unai Lopez, strike just wide of the post, and I think it may have gone out for a goal kick, much to the dismay of Unai Lopez, who wanted a corner. But I think it's fair to say Palace certainly caught cold, and Oliver Glasner saying to his players, need to get switched back on.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, it's Vallecano, surprisingly, who started the better after that restart. It was them who were trying to keep the game paused. The goalkeeper was just flat out refusing for a moment, but it was good attack from them. I'll break off though, Palace up the other end. Yeah,
great counter-attack from Crystal Palace. Ismail Assar now corner of the penalty area, trying to get the ball back centrally. But the challenge comes in from Sis, and it's out of play for a corner over on the far side. Expect better in that position from Ismail Assar. They moved it brilliantly from back to front at Crystal Palace. And then in the final third, you want Ismail Assar in that position, trying to look for a teammate inside the penalty area or even look towards goal. But he completely miskicks the pass. And in the end, he's done well just to win a corner. Now an opportunity, though, for the English side to swing the ball into the box. It's Adam Wharton with his left boot over on the far side with the in-swinger. Once again, plenty of fighting going on inside the penalty area. It's Palathon up against Canvo. And again, we're going to have an extended stoppage because again, the referee is going to tell players they can't hold on to each other. Now, I'm not being funny. If Izzy Palathon is going to continue doing that, at some point the referee is going to have to blow for a spot kick because he is fouling JD Canvo in the build-up to these corners. Let's see what happens from this one. Wharton Left-footed ball towards the near post. Lacroix's up, so's Mateta. It will be Lacroix who will have a swing at it after Mateta gets the initial touch, but he can't keep it under control and out of play for a goal kick. I mean, the corners are messy, Josh, and they're not working out for Palace.
No, they're not at the moment. We've seen them be much more dangerous from them. And you are right, Vallecano have got to be a bit more careful inside the box there. Palafin sort of has his arms quite high up on JD Canvo, and he goes to the ground in the end as the French defender. Probably not enough in it in the end, but you think in Europe as well. I've always thought the European referees to be much more harsher with that sort of thing and to give penalties more often, that sort of pushing and shoving inside the box. So yeah, surprising if one doesn't get given for that at some point if it continues the way that it's going.
Palathon's just been caught there by Adam Wharton, and rightly so. Free kick given and a yellow card as well for the former Blackburn Rovers man, who work it brilliantly over on the far side. Do Rayo Vallecano eventually getting the ball to their talisman, number 7. And rightly so, referee giving a yellow card. It's not a huge amount of contact from Adam Wharton. I think that's what he's saying to the referee, and maybe suggesting that in his time in the EFL that wouldn't have been given as a foul. But in Europe, he's not going to be as fortunate, Adam Wharton, and rightly so, free kick given to the Spanish side. Yeah,
I think the yellow card is probably justified as well there from Adam Wharton. There's a lot of contact, but what he does is he sort of pulls out of it because he knows he's already that late, and the fact that he pulls out, he sort of clamps down on with it. It's not a red card, it's not malicious or anything like that from Adam Wharton, but yeah, certainly deserving of a yellow.
Left-footed ball in from Palathon is a flat one. Sis trying to flick it on, can't direct it towards anybody in red and white, and it's cleared away by Ismail Assar inside the penalty area, out of play for a Vallecano throw-in on the near side. The camera just pans to Alamau and Maxence Lacroix. He's not had much joy out of the Frenchman. There's Alamau, but up against Riyad and Canvo, certainly been a little bit more fruitful. Still, his opportunity, you feel, the only even real half chance for either of these two sides so far in this one's been cagey to say the least, but certainly not boring, it has to be said. As was Ratiou fouled there by Daichi Kamada, it looks like he was. Obviously, a lot spoken of Oliver Glasner and this being his final game in charge of Crystal Palace, but it's also a final outing for Daichi Kamada in at least the red and blue of Crystal Palace. I was going to say in red and blue, but he might find himself at somewhere like Barcelona in the future. I'll break off because Daniel Munoz is going to fly forward now over on the far side, back into Adam Wharton, return ball back to Munoz. Lovely football from those two. Munoz attempted ball into the box. Was there a handball in the build-up? The referee thought was going to blow for it. In the end, he does, and I think it is going to be for the handball against Daniel Munoz. Not much the Colombian can do, but it's one of those, yes, it's accidental, but he controls the ball with his arm, and that's the only reason that attack is still going for Crystal Palace.
Yeah, it is. If he doesn't get his hands to that, then it goes out of play for a throw-in anyway, or Vallecano pick it up in their own defensive third and then eventually get it clear. He just sort of slides in, doesn't he? He leaves it up in the air, and then as the clearance is made, it just come off his arm, so we can't have any complaints about that one. But what a ball through again there from Adam Wharton. Luke, you mentioned you were very surprised to see him not in the England squad for the World Cup. I must say, I am surprised at myself, given the players that have been picked ahead of him. Such a lovely footballer, Adam Wharton, and those passes show exactly why he's probably surprised not to see him going to the World Cup.
Yeah, but he's one of those players, Adam Wharton, he'll keep his head down and he'll crack on, won't he? He's not going to throw his toys out the pram. Nothing been posted on social media. He'll crack on with it, and I'm sure we'll see him in an England squad sooner rather than later after the World Cup, and I'm sure he'll have a great time watching it as well. Adam Wharton, I feel like he's one of those players who loves watching football. Will watch every game he can, and I'm sure he'll be sending the boys in North America his full support. As the ball's back at the feet of his goalkeeper Dean Henderson inside the Palace penalty area. We've barely mentioned his name so far. Ball's not really been at his feet, nor has he had to make a save. Yet to see a shot on target from either of these two sides so far, as we're into the 45th minute in Leipzig. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Crystal Palace 0, Rayo Vallecano 0. There'll be a fair bit of added on time after that stoppage for the crowd emergency earlier on. As long ball sent forward towards Jeremy Pino, not dealt with brilliantly by Andre Ratiou, but eventually Vallecano will get clear through Oscar Valentin. Gathered now over on the far side after the JD Canvo header by Daniel Munoz. Back to the young Frenchman. He'll just put his foot on the ball before chipping a lovely ball to Munoz over on the far side, further down the Palace right wing. Back into Canvo though now. He will go back to Lacroix just inside the centre circle. Be 4 added minutes at the end of this first half. 4 minutes for either of these two sides to try and get ahead before the interval. as Mitchell now over on the far side looks to try and play the ball into Kamada. Intercepted well by Ratu, one back high at the field though by Crystal Palace. Attempted ball into the box by Mitchell, he's cleared away well, looking for Mateta by Sis. And eventually De Frutos can gather on the near side and drive forward for Rayo Vallecano. Can he get away from Riyad with a bit of pace? He can't, and then Wharton defends the turn inside brilliantly, and Palace have the ball back. Decent spell this from Oliver Glasner's side to end the first half. Wharton, lovely ball over the top for Mateta, who's got goal side assist. Thought there was a foul or thought there was an offside. Either way, nothing given by the linesman, and Mateta now can gather over on the Palace right and slow things down. Here's Canvo inside now for Wharton. Wharton floats a lovely ball towards the back, but Mitchell with the chance, and it should be 1-0. Biggest opportunity of the final so far falls away at Palace's left back, and ultimately he should have found the back of the net. Wharton showing his quality. Glasner can't believe it's still level, and Tyree Mitchell has his head in his hands.
That is a massive warning to Rayo Vallecano. That is why you cannot let Adam Wharton get time and space on his left foot. What a peach of a cross that is to the far post. Mitchell gets in front of the defender as well. It's not the easiest header in the world there to his defence, but he's got to be putting it on target. He wants to get it in that far corner. Oliver Glasner nearly comes flying onto the pitch. He thinks that one's ending up in the back of the net. Huge moment in the final for Crystal Palace. The closest either side has come so far to opening the deadlock. We've had to wait until at stoppage time to see it. Still yet to see a shot on target in this one, but a huge moment.
Massive moment in this one. We know how important the first goal can be in finals like these, particularly when the two sides are so tight on paper in terms of their quality and style. And that is a huge opportunity for Tyreek Mitchell. Saw the reaction from both managers. Oliver Glasner couldn't believe they hadn't scored. I don't think Inigo Perez could believe they hadn't scored. He feels like his side have been dealt a massive slice of luck, and ultimately he will be absolutely furious that chance was even given away. But it still remains level, 0-0 between these two, and that's all that matters. Forget the chances that have been missed, it's the chances that get scored, and right now both sides have had a pretty decent chance to take the lead. Palace with the better of the two, but unable to find the back of the net. Here Vallecano now have possession though. It's Bataya launches a long right-footed ball towards halfway. Palathon, decent flick on, looking towards Garcia over on the far side. Canvo wins it though and feeds Kamada, and Kamada can stretch his legs through midfield. Here's Mitchell, has to compose himself now after that missed chance. Back to Kamada, edge of the penalty area. Ball towards the back post. Munoz is up, and ultimately underneath the ball, he heads comfortably wide and over the crossbar and out of play for a goal kick. His game almost feels like a heavyweight boxing match where both sides are taking turns at just sort of pounding at the opposition, but neither able to even score a knockdown at this point.
Yeah, just sort of lacked quality for a lot of this first half, but we're seeing it at the end now, I think, from Crystal Palace. First with that ball in from Wharton, I think it's a really good ball there as well, from Kamada over towards the back post. Again, Munoz attacking it, and that's where Palace are getting some joy now, just finding those full-backs who are always going to attack and go as far forward as they can. They're just starting to creep around the back of their own defenders, and you think it's going to be rather sooner rather than later, that they finally get that big chance again and maybe finally put it on target.
Yeah, the space has opened up right at the end here for Crystal Palace with the 4 minutes added on. Just as I say that, Vallecano do well to get bodies back and shut things down. Still though, Palace look to mount one final attack in this first half. Pino, attempted ball over into the far side towards Munoz, is cut out well in the end by Chevalier, and that will do for the first 45 in Leipzig. Fantastic first half, really tight between these two sides as we expected. A chance apiece for the two. Alamau with the first for Vallecano, a left-footed effort that he struck against his right knee, but the best of the two chances falling the way of Tyreek Mitchell of Crystal Palace. Free header at the back post, diving towards the goal of Bataya, headed wide and out of play for a goal kick. But at half-time it is Crystal Palace 0, Rayo Vallecano 0.
Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamal, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach of a ball in from Adam Wharton, found the head of Tyreek Mitchell. However, he couldn't divert it into the bottom corner. Rayo Vallecano going close with Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put an effort wide inside the box, but it's still all to play for in this final. Half time in Leipzig, and it remains goalless in the Europa Conference League final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Quite an intriguing game to watch, in all fairness. However, we are still awaiting the first shot on target of the game. The biggest moment of the match, though, has come right at the end of the first half. A peach. Well, it's a very warm welcome back to this independent unofficial off-tube studio commentary. We are back underway for the second half of this Europa Conference League final. It remains goalless so far between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. We are still awaiting the first shot on target of this one. However, it has sort of spiced up towards the end of the half. Crystal Palace just showing signs that they are going to start maybe taking the game more now to the Spanish side. Tyreek Mitchell missing a big chance right at the end of the first half. It was an absolute peach of a ball in, wasn't it, from Adam Wharton right towards the back post. Mitchell got the run on the defender, and all he had to do was just plant his header into the bottom corner. Keeper wasn't getting near it, and ultimately ended up missing the target. Palace started well. Vallecano grew nicely into the game. Their biggest chance coming through Alamau, the Brazilian striker, who put one wide inside the box. Other than that, not too much to go. But here come Palace now, right at the start of the second half. It's a good ball into the area, looking for Mateta. Tyreek Mitchell getting the time and space over on that left side. Florian Lejeune with some crucial defending. It's still myself, Joshua Makin, alongside me, Luke Asher, is taking you through this final. And again, Luke, Palace starting the better of the half.
Yeah, really good from Crystal Palace, moving the ball from back to front quickly. That's when we've seen Palace open up Vallecano the best, when they've gone from back to front with 1-2 touch passing. It's a decent ball in from Tyreek Mitchell, and you can understand why he's gone looking for Jean-Philippe Mateta in that position. I just think there were a couple arriving late in the penalty that he maybe could have looked towards himself, but instead it went towards Mateta, and in the end, well defended by Florian Lejeune. Chance now there from the long throw.
Yeah, once again it's going to be Munoz. It's a better one this time. Lacroix heads it behind him. It's ultimately going to go out for a goal kick, though. You can see the aim again there from Crystal Palace. They want to try and get it towards that near post, get the flick on, create some chaos inside the box, but ultimately Vallecano survive.
Yeah, they do. I'm still not a fan of those Daniel Munoz long throws. I think I was maybe spoiled by the fact that I spent Sunday afternoon watching Michael Coyote launch throws in at Anfield against Liverpool, and that man can launch a long throw into the penalty area, it has to be said. Daniel Munoz maybe not quite got the quality of the Italian.
No, definitely doesn't. About 2.5 minutes of the way through the second half, still goals. There's been no changes at the break as well. Both sides are as they were, so I'll just run through the lineups once more. For Palace, it's Henderson in goal, back three of Riyad, Lacroix and Cambo. It's Mitchell, Kamada, Wharton and Munoz in front of them. Wharton on a yellow card, by the way. And then a front three of Sarp, Mateta and Pino. For Vallecano, Batalla, still the goalkeeper. A back four, Bertiu, Sis, who's on a yellow card, Lejeune and Chavaria. Valentin and Lopez is the midfield with De Frotos, Pelafon, who's on a yellow, and Garcia in behind Alamau, who's the starting striker for Rayo Vallecano. What a turn that is from Kamada, and he's been absolutely wiped out there. But I believe it's Unai Lopez, isn't it? The Rayo Vallecano midfielder. They're extremely late on the Japanese midfielder. Goes into the book, and I don't think he can have any complaints whatsoever about being Vallecano's third booking of the game. No, he can't. It's a lovely turn from Kamada. It's just too quick for the midfielder, and correctly so. Unai Lopez get the yellow card. He doesn't need to make that challenge. I think if you're Inigo Perez, the Rayo Vallecano manager, you're probably looking at a few of your players who are on yellow cards and saying you've either overcommitted or gone to ground too early, and it's poor. And you've now got 3 players who, still with pretty much a full half football to go, are on a yellow card and are going to be walking a tightrope. Yeah, certainly are. Valentin there has profited off of a slip by Ismail Sarr. He's just gone the halfway line, doesn't know where he wants to go forwards or backwards, so it's back towards Sis instead. Spanish teams have a remarkable record, by the way, in European finals. Real Betis were the last ones actually to lose a final to a non-Spanish side. Of course, that was in last year's final. They lost 4-1 to Chelsea. It's only happened once since then. Well, I said once since 2001, and that was the final. Vallecano now trying to go forward again and to avoid extending that record. Ultimately, it's a Palace throw-in though. It's taken quickly by Mitchell towards the feet of Mateta. Been fairly quiet so far in this game, the French international. It's Kamada now. It's had a lively start to the second half. Bursts forward. He finds Wharton over towards his right. It feels like if Palace are going to score this evening, might come through Adam Wharton. He's been fantastic with his passing. And again, already mentioned about that cross into the area. Munoz though now for Palace. Towards Kamada. Not really going anywhere with it for the time being. Oliver Glasner's side. Camvo, good footwork. He finds Munoz, who's on the touchline. Plenty of white shirts in the way of them, though. Kamada, nice pass inside towards Adam Wharton. Of a space on that left-hand side for Palace to drive into. It's Wharton who's got the freedom of Leipzig by the looks of things. He's still going, Adam Wharton, up towards the edge of the box. He takes the strike on, it's on target. Mateta puts in the rebound. The flag stays down, and Crystal Palace have the opener of this one. Jean-Philippe Mateta in the right place at the right time. And in this Europa Conference League final, it's Crystal Palace 1, Rayo Vallecano 0.
And it's a huge moment in the history of Crystal Palace Football Club. The scenes behind the goal are of absolute jubilation. Huge moment in this game, and you've just said, Josh, you feel if a goal's going to come for Crystal Palace this evening, the man who's going to be a bright spark in that goal is going to be Adam Wharton, and that's exactly what's happened. Picks the ball up, drives through midfield from halfway, doesn't ever think about stopping. He goes and goes, lets fly on his left boot, and well, it's not great from Bataya. He palms it straight to Jean-Philippe Mateta, but with the ball bouncing up towards him, he shows great composure, the Frenchman, to tap it into the empty net. It's Wharton that makes it. It's Mateta that finishes it. It's the story of Palace over the last couple of years, you feel. And well, what a potential brilliant way to crown off Oliver Glasner's time at Crystal Palace. But what a moment for those fans behind the goal. And what a goal that what an important moment that could be this evening.
Yeah, could be one of the biggest goals in Crystal Palace's history. Massive celebrations behind the goal. Jean-Philippe Mateta, well, he's gone from zero to hero, hasn't he, this season? He looked like he was destined for a move to AC Milan. It didn't fall through. It took the Palace fans some time to come back round to him. Well, there's no way to make up the redemption story. Van with that one. It's his 16th goal this season. Second in the Conference League. That's a high foot there as well on Ismail Sarr. This might be another booking for Vallecano. That looked quite a high one. All the momentum is now with Oliver Glasner's side. They want even more for that one. I don't think a card is going to be produced, but Sarr currently down with a head injury.
Yeah, I think he was caught as he went down. It's an extremely high boot there from Andrei Ratiu. Not a nice one. The Romanian wasn't happy with the decision. I think he may have gotten a little bit fortunate, the fullback. That, to me, looked like one of those where you're not just poking your foot in as an attempt. Like, that's very, very high. But it does mean we're going to get to see a replay of the goal. Look, so much credit to Adam Wharton, as you said, Josh. And as I mentioned as well, you felt like he was going to be a key part of the Palace's attack going into this second half, given how well he played in that first half. It was brilliantly well to step towards goal. Shows great composure to take the strike on. It's a decent strike. Could Bataya do better? I personally think so. But I also have to give a lot of credit to Jean-Philippe Mateta. That ball bounces up to shin height. It comes off his shin. But he shows great composure to cushion the ball into the empty net. Fantastic from the Frenchman. Fantastic for Crystal Palace. And I also have to say, I love it from Chadi Riyad. 23 years of age, while players are celebrating around and obviously showing great jubilation, he's the one pointing to his head. He knows that Palace have got to stay switched on. I really like that from Palace's 34. And, well, they are going to have to stay switched on because you know Vallecano are going to do everything they can to throw themselves at this game now and try and spoil Palace's fun.
Yeah, they certainly are, but they've also got to be careful. They don't let Palace really just grab them by the throat here. Could easily be 2-0 up if they go for this one now. They could have another chance now with Sarr on the edge of the box. Is he fouled there? He is as well. It's Lopez who's made the challenge on his man. He's on a booking as well, so he needs to be careful. He's not going to be shown a second yellow card, but once again, Crystal Palace going forward. Ismail Sarr just starting to look dangerous. It's actually Lejeune who just sort of barges into him in the end. There's no real effort to play the ball. It's a clear foul, and Palace have a free kick in a really dangerous position.
If I'm Inigo Perez right now, I'm a little bit concerned. I'd argue that it's potentially the worst, well, not potentially, I think it is the worst time to concede. It's right after half-time, because the manager cannot say anything to you, and all of a sudden the plan A after half-time is straight out the window, and there's not a chance for a plan B to be conjured. It has to be said. So I think Inigo Perez will be a little bit worried, and that Florian Lejeune challenge is a perfect example of how potentially the heads may have gone. I will say as well, we're just seeing a replay of that there. Bit naughty that from Florian Lejeune. As Sarr hit the deck, I'm not saying it's a kick out from the former Newcastle United man, but there is certainly a foot left in there towards the ribs of Ismail Sarr. No wonder the Senegalese international was left in a little bit of a heap.
Yeah, he was smashing the floor there in sort of pain, Ismail Sarr. Really not great form that from Florian Lejeune, but we have this free kick anyway to watch now for Crystal Palace. Wharton standing over it, so it's Pino's way, it's over the wall! Oh, it's off both posts! Can it be put in on the rebound? Somehow it's not, and Vallecano clear it. Absolutely unbelievable. At the end there, a free kick eventually given. There's a Vallecano man down on the deck in the goal mouth. Well, Yerin Pino, we know he's got a fantastic free kick on him. He is so unlucky not to score him. He's hit both posts, has the Spaniard. Absolutely unbelievable. Palace should be 2-0 up. It's Riyad who's then on the end of it as well. He might have been in an offside position. He somehow couldn't put the ball in the net. And our Palace not 2-0 up.
Well, I've got no idea, and I don't think Jeremy Pino knows either, excuse me. Hits the inside of both posts. I cannot believe that's not found the back of the net. I mean, Bataille's getting nowhere near the first, and then the second off the post, he's obviously on the floor. What an effort that was from Jeremy Pino. How Chadi Riyad didn't score, I'm not quite sure, but as you said, he looked offside, and here come Palace again.
Yeah, it could be a 3-on-1. It's Pino sprinting forward. He's into the box now. Sis comes across to cover him. Mateta with the shot. What a save from Bataille. Palace fans have their head in their hands behind the goal, but Jean-Philippe Mateta, he's trying to G them back up. Palace absolutely on the brink here of going 2-0 up. Vallecano are starting to capitulate. Mateta, oh, what a save from Bataille. He does get down nicely to his left. Mateta might be disappointed, but Palace is sensing blood.
Yeah, he's brilliant from Pino as he drives forward. Shows great composure to feed Mateta, who just can't quite wrap his foot around it enough to find the back of the net. But they have to get the second in this spell, Crystal Palace. They cannot allow this momentum to go away without the 2-goal lead, because Vallecano, you'd expect, will come back in this one. You've got to kill it off while you've got the chance, and while they're under pressure, Wharton to swing in this corner.
Yeah, in swinging corner now from Wharton towards the near post, headed down in the ground there by the Vallecano man. Chavaria will get it clear. Pino slides in on Lopez. There's no advantage play, but Vallecano are going to bring it forward anyway. And suddenly this game just starting to burst into life. It's becoming stretched in the midfield. It felt like it was a game that needed a goal, and well, it's got one now. And now both sides are absolutely going for this. Exactly what you want to see from the neutral perspective. Vallecano eventually going to be awarded a free kick, and that's the danger as well for Palace. Although they are going to go in search of that second goal, can't leave themselves open.
No, they certainly can't. They've got to be cautious, and they've got to understand that Vallecano, yes, they're 1-0 down, but will still look to try and play on the counter-attack and look to cause problems. It's pandemonium, it has to be said, behind the Vallecano goal. Crystal Palace fans celebrating like we haven't seen since, well, Wembley last season. It looks like a fantastic place to be at the moment. That's Crystal Palace end. I'll break off because here comes Vallecano.
Yeah, there's the volley from the edge of the area, and well, Rayo Vallecano finally registered their first shot on target. It is come from Alamo. It's probably looked the most likely for Rayo Vallecano, but ultimately he hits it down the barrel of Dean Henderson, who sees it all the way. It's an easy save into the hands, and a slight response from Vallecano.
Yeah, we need to see a response quickly from the Spaniards. We really do, because Palace have come out of the blocks flying. I think Oliver Glasner's clearly had a word with Ismail Sarr. Make it more of a front three, not a front two with himself and Mateta. Bring Pino into that. You drift further wide and cause some issues that way. And it's worked out really quite well. So really quite well for so far for Crystal Palace. It needs to continue, but as I said, this momentum's got to pay off. They've got to try and find themselves a second goal and kill this game off and put Vallecano really under pressure, as that's going to be a free kick there, given the way of Tyreek Mitchell after he was clattered over on the far side by Ratiu. It looks though Vallecano have seen enough, or Inigo Perez has seen enough, and he's readying a couple of changes over on the far side.
Yeah, not surprising at all, to be honest, with the way that the game's going at the moment. Can see Mitchell just gets in front of Ateo, who has actually come off worse as a result of it. He's back up to his feet though, and he's going to try and walk it off. Understandably so, Vallecano need to show some urgency and some real courage now in this game. We are up towards the hour mark, and it's Palace 1, Vallecano 0. If you aren't just joining us, Jean-Philippe Mateta is on his second goal in the Conference League this season. He's a tap-in for the French striker, but he had to be there. He's just missed another big chance as well to score his brace and give Palace some daylight. The game back underway now. It's a lovely turn as well as Pino drives forward. Actually, Kamada lays it off towards Pino's just behind him, advancing down the left side now. Palace. Pino back onto his right, ball into the box. Siren Munoz are both arriving as well at the back post. I'm not sure if they almost get in each other's way in the end there, the two Crystal Palace players. It's a fantastic ball in from Pino, who's really starting to come alive in this game. You can almost see maybe it takes a touch off of Sis at the last second. There's a few bodies up for it. Ultimately, I think it does come off Munoz.
Yeah, I think it's a goal kick in the end, but you're absolutely right. Yeremy Pino has come out his second half on absolute fire. He really has. The way he just cuts inside, he's been a joy to watch. We've seen more and more of that this season, I think, which has been good to see from wingers. Doku, Shirky, Semenyo, Elise, Engamoa, Pino this evening. Wingers now more and more being encouraged to dart inside, take on your man. Pino, as we just said, fantastic so far in this second half. And well, it feels like if Vallecano are going to get back into this game, they've got to almost nullify him first. Yeah. Because at the minute, it almost just feels like a matter of time before Pino gets Palace's second or creates Palace's second, similar to how we said Wharton was going to be involved in that first.
Yeah, they just need to try and weather this storm, to be honest, and stay in the game for as long as possible, and maybe put Palace under some pressure towards the end, because at the moment they're on the brink and they're well and truly on the ropes. Palace are trying to kill this one right here and not even give Vallecano a chance to get back into the game. As it stands, it's just the one goal that separates them, but it could easily be more than that. Free kick from Yeremy Pino. I think we're going to be thinking about that one for a long time. I can't believe that didn't end up in the back of the net as the ball goes forward for Vallecano. Cambo does well. Kamada surely tripped from behind. It's going to be another yellow card for Vallecano. Their fourth of the game, if I'm not mistaken. This time, Alvaro Garcia is the man who goes into the book. He just gets the wrong side again of Kamada, trips him, and it's a yellow card.
Yeah, it's lazy from Garcia. Doesn't fancy chasing back from Kamada. He was always second favourite to get that. When you dangle a leg like that, you're always going to catch the man. Poor from the Vallecano, number 18. He'd be one of the first I'd be taking off, to be honest, as Unai Lopez is indeed going to be brought off straight away. And it's Pedro Diaz, the number 4, who comes on to replace him. Oscar Valentin also going off, so it's a change in double pivot as Nobel Mendy is going to come on, the number 32. Really interesting to see the double pivot change like that. But Mendy, you'd imagine, is going to move in at centre half, and Sis is going to move into midfield, and that's exactly what we've seen there. And straight away, Vallecano back on the front foot. Yeah,
well, they had to change something in that midfield. They've gone for the ultimate change in the end. They were being ran through in this second half. And that's now why Perez has made that decision. Can already see Mendy playing to the left of Lejeune. Sis has stepped forward. Chavaria for Vallecano. Nice ball in towards the centre as well to find Diaz. He'll just come on, of course. Now back towards Mendy for his first few touches. Across again. Now towards Lejeune. Mendy out towards the left. More possession in the second half now for a change for Vallecano. Sure, might have gone a little bit quieter behind that goal. Chavaria trying to loop one into the box. It's not the worst idea in the end. Palafon is trying to make the run off of the defender. I mean, they've got to get him involved in the game as well. I don't think we barely mention him in the second half. He's usually one of the biggest threats for Vallecano. He's now taken the captain's armband as well, but he's barely had a sniff.
Yeah, he's just not been able to get in that half space between back 3 and midfield 2. The back 3 of Palace, particularly in this second half, have clearly had instructions from Oliver Glasner and have covered that gap brilliantly. They've not overcommitted but they have stepped forward when they needed to and basically just removed the space that Palathon likes to operate in.
Pino across to Mitchell, who's more central than he usually is, but he's done well to get away from his man there. And he's found it out wide to Sarr, who's moving into the box. Sarr on his right foot, he hits it into the side net, and he had plenty of power on it. He hit it low as well. Not sure if the keeper was getting down to that one, if it snuck in on the right side of the post, but it doesn't in the end. It's behind for a goal kick.
Yeah, my first thought was, can he chip this one into Jean-Philippe Mateta? But I think just because of how close he is, Mateta would have been waiting on it for so long that he'd have ended up becoming second favourite in the end. So I don't mind the effort from Ismaila Sarr, neither does Oliver Glasner, but it's fantastic play from Tyreek Mitchell. It really is. You said popping up in a narrow position, absolutely, but he shows great footwork to move the ball out to Ismaila Sarr, and almost a brilliant opportunity for Palace's second.
Yeah, I've already mentioned about Adam Wharton obviously not being a part of that England team. I think Tyreek Mitchell probably has to have a word as well. He's never really got a look in properly for England. Only 2 international caps, but with the left-back choices that have been called up, I suppose he wasn't given more of a look in. Of course, England have got Nico O'Reilly and Dan Burn as their real left-back options. There's also Tino Livramento as well. Some might say that Nico O'Reilly is actually more of a midfielder. England don't have an out-and-out left-back. Tyreek Mitchell would certainly fit into the category of doing so. Regardless, he'll have to keep on going and up, but his time comes in an England shirt. Well, Vallecano have got themselves a throw-in just past the halfway line. Mateu taking it. Vallecano have actually just had just about the majority of the ball on this one, 55 compared to 45 of Palace. However, that's the stat that really matters. Palace have had 9 attempts in this game, just 3 for Vallecano. They've simply not tested Dean Henderson enough at all.
No, well, he's not had to make a save yet, Dean Henderson. It's been pretty calm for the Palace skipper so far this evening, and I think that's just as much credit has to go to the Crystal Palace back 3 as criticism has to go to the Vallecano front line. I think that Palace back 3 of Riyad, Lacroix and Canvo have done brilliantly well, just nullifying the attack of Rayo Vallecano, and credit as well to Munoz and Mitchell, but it's particularly Daniel Munoz, who I think this evening has been way more reserved than he normally is, but he's gotten back well and supported Canvo brilliantly, and I think that is where Vallecano have really struggled.
Yeah, it certainly has. That's a poor pass out of defence though from Palace, and it's actually going to be stopped. Lejeune was sprinting forward. However, the referee has had to call that one to a stop. I think he's intervened, hasn't he? He's too far forward there. He has to step over the ball at last minute. It actually comes off of his ankle. See why Vallecano are frustrated about that one, but the referee, he has to stop the game in that situation, and ultimately it's going to be the drop ball. It's going to be contested between Mateta and Lejeune for it. In fact, it might just be Lejeune who gets control of this one. The referee apologising for getting in the way. Ultimately, Lejeune has the game back underway now. Across towards Mendy. Back with the French defender. Don't really any options for him now. The game just being reduced to walking pace, which might suit Palace for the time being, but ultimately they want that second goal. Palathon is now dropping a lot deeper. Lejeune with a nice pass through the middle line. He's got pressure though in the form of Riyad, who does too much in the end. It's going to be a free kick for Vallecano just before the halfway line. Need to get it forward, and they have done as well. It's a nice spray pass out towards Chavaria. Finds Palathon, and now that's a nice ball round the corner, and Garcia is into the box. Good chance, gets towards the byline, tries to cut it across. Another chance as well there. Alamau just getting there ahead of the defender. Ultimately he puts it into the side netting. But that's better from Vallecano. The fans are going to like that one a lot more.
Yeah, it's the first time in the second half Canvo's been caught out of pressure, out of position, I should say, sorry. So it gets done by the short to go long run from Garcia, but it's that first touch as he lets the ball run, which is way too heavy. And Inigo Perez is saying he had to calm down there. The touch has to be better just to float the ball into Alamau. Huge opportunity, and it goes a begging. Poor from Garcia, and well, that's a warning sign again for JD Canvo. First time in the second half, as I mentioned, he's been caught out of position, and he gets away with it on that occasion.
Yeah, it certainly does. Going to be another free kick now as Alamau is trying to get more involved. He's won one off of Maxime Lacroix, who's stepping forward and just caught too much in the end of the Brazilian. And with that though, we are up towards the halfway point of this second half. Crystal Palace are currently 22 minutes away, plus whatever is given at the end of this one from their first major European trophy. No pressure then on Crystal Palace. They lead thanks to that goal from Jean-Philippe Mateta, and with that, it's going to be Luke to take us through to full time.
Yeah, cheers, Josh. Thanks very much. It's been a fantastic game so far. It's been the game that we hoped for, really. Certainly the game that Crystal Palace fans will hope for. As right now, as Josh mentioned, they're on their way to lifting their first ever European trophy. Shades of the West Ham Fiorentina game from a few years ago, this. A London side battling for a major European trophy. It does certainly feel like there are more thrills and spills to come. As Inigo Perez is going to make another double change to Frutos and Garcia. So we had the double pivot being brought off a few moments ago. We're now having both wide players brought off, and it's Cameo and Espina that come on to replace them. I mean, De Frutos I feel for, because Mitchell's defended brilliantly, as has Chadi Riyad. We just haven't seen anywhere near enough from Alvaro Garcia tonight.
No, we haven't. He's been really quiet on that left-hand side, hasn't he? He's just had that chance there in the box, and ultimately the final ball was lacking. He's one of the best players, isn't he, in this Vallecano team? A lot of their attacks go through, and they've looked to go down that left side plenty of times, but just hasn't really had the answers to get round the defenders. De Frutos as well. Watched him in that game against Strasbourg in the semis and thought he looked good. And ultimately there's another mistake there from Sissu, who's stepping forward.
Yeah, a chance now for Pals to come forward. Mateta away from a couple, held up well by Sissu. He's struggled a little bit so far in that new midfield role. He's basically just been told to sit and allow Pedro Diaz to come forward as much as possible. Here it is now with Deichi Kamada. Kamada back to JD Canvo. Canvo trying to get away from Palathon. That's far too easy for Canvo to get away from Palathon. Almost able to play through Kamada then the double deflection sees the ball out of play for a Vallecano throw. Sis, the man who was there doing a bit of defending. It's out of play for a throw on the near side. An opportunity for Vallecano to try and throw some more bodies forward with 20 minutes left to play. Here it is now with Chavaria, attempted ball to the midfield, cut out well. Here's Ismail Assar now in the final third, with Palace moving the ball forward quickly. That's going to be a foul there from Daniel Munoz on Diaz, and that's going to be a free kick to the Spanish side. The substitutes need to get into this game quickly, don't they? Our break-up, that's a great ball forward to Pacha down the left-hand side. One of those aforementioned substitutes, Pacha, ball into the box. It's been headed away well in the end by Lacroix. Still the chances there, though. Here's Ratiu, far side away from a couple, ball in towards Pacha, headed towards goal. I think the final touch came off of Munoz, but the free kick has been given against the Uruguayan substitute, who says shoulder to shoulder. I mean, if he was going to complain it was anything, I think shoulder to shoulder is probably the last thing he could complain that it was.
It's certainly not shoulder to shoulder, is it, that one? He gives him a clear nudge in the back there. He wags his finger to the referee, thinks he's been done harshly there, but I don't think he has. He's definitely fouled the man, and just as you were saying, the substitutes need to make an impact. Fit Pacha has actually just made a pretty positive one there, getting away down the left-hand side again. That does look like Palace's sort of weak spot at the moment. Cambo is getting exposed down that flank, and you just think if Pacha could sort of continue this good start he's had since coming onto the pitch, might be able to just form a goal.
Henderson, long lofted ball over the top into the Vallecano half. Eventually it finds its way to Pino Sarr inside the penalty. Good challenge from Lejeune. Munoz though wins the edge of the penalty area. Referee says no foul. Counter attack opportunity for Vallecano. Here's Palathon driving forward over onto the far side for Diaz. Further wide now for Cameo. Cameo back inside to Ratiu. Great football this from the Spaniards. Ratiu, ball back down the line looking towards Cameo, and out of play for a goal kick. They almost got in the way of each other there, those in red and white. Palace left short of the back. Why they moved it over onto the far side, I've got no idea, but the opportunity was there to try and get themselves an equaliser, and in the end it just wasn't there for them.
No, it wasn't. It just sort of looked like they ran out of ideas on the attack there. You are right, it was good football initially from Rayo Vallecano, and they just couldn't quite get that right pass. It was a bit more congested on that side of the field. Needed to play it over towards the left. They couldn't manage it in the end. It's just a few warning shots at the moment now from Rayo Vallecano. Well, yes, Palace are on top still, and certainly look the more likely of the two sides to get that next goal. There are just a few instances now of Vallecano starting to get through that Palace defence, and the Glasgow side are going to have to wisen up.
Yeah, They certainly are. Don't be surprised to see some changes from Oliver Glasner sooner rather than later. I know he's normally reluctant to make changes, but it feels like now is the time that he is going to have to start looking towards his bench. Feel like that was Borna Sosa potentially getting ready to come on over on the far side. There is somebody in red and blue ready to come on, but here comes Vallecano looking to try and come forward. Palathon, was he brought down there on the edge of the box? Yes, he was, by Yeremy Pino, who just points to the referee that it was his first foul that he's given away, but it's still a yellow card for the Spanish international. Good from Izzy Palathon, who's got him more and more involved in this one. And straight away, Yeremy Pino knows what he's done. It's an accident, but he still catches the man as he steps across him. And rightly so, our Italian referee gives a free kick. Maybe a little bit harsh to give the yellow card, but a free kick nonetheless, and a good opportunity from the set piece.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it is his first foul of the game, but it's where it is on the pitch there from Pino. You know, Palathon is sprinting forward up towards the edge of the box. He's probably going to get a shot off on his left foot as well from the edge of the area, and he's capable from that sort of range. So you can see why a yellow card's been given, denying a fairly decent opportunity. There's already a few tears starting to come from the Rayo Vallecano end. There's still plenty of time left for them to get back into this one, though. I think they might be going a little bit early with that one, and they have got this free kick now as well.
Yeah, that poor young man's got a lot to learn about football, hasn't he, if he's crying at this stage of the game. Izzy Palathon standing over this along with Florian Lejeune. Lejeune has struck a few from distance this season, I've seen. Whether I trust him in this position, I'm not so sure. I feel like I'd be leaving it for Izzy Palathon, but Lejeune is there. It will be Palathon to strike, and well, he wasn't close with that one, was he? A high, wide, and not very handsome from the man with the armband for Vallecano. It's going to take some effort to beat Dean Henderson from there, and that wasn't it.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't quite as close, was it, as what we've just seen from Yeremy Pino a few minutes ago. Not really anywhere near the goal in the end. Still worth taking the shot in that sort of range, but you've got to do better with that one if you're going to go for it. Palace are now going to respond with a change of their own. Jean-Philippe Mateta, who's the hero so far, isn't he, for Crystal Palace. It's his goal that separates these two sides. It's going to be a January signing, and the man who Palace thought were going to replace Jean-Philippe Mateta, Jürgen Strand-Larsen, coming on.
Yeah, one of, I think it's fair to say, every Palace player who copied the celebration of Jean-Philippe Mateta after he scored. On comes Jürgen Strand-Larsen, you feel, just to hold the ball up a little bit better than Mateta come the end of this game. We shall wait and see. It's quite some sight that I'm sure Palace fans will be watching for quite some time. I think that's probably a good 15 players involved in that celebration with Jean-Philippe Mateta after the goal. Very, very impressive, and it will go down as one of the more iconic celebrations in Premier League history. I have to say, I am a big fan of it. It's certainly unique, and the chant is also superb. As Vallecano gets back underway now, Bataya moving the ball forward. Here it is now over on the far side with Palathon. One final change being readied by Inigo Perez over on the far side. We'll have to wait and see who it is. Don't be surprised if it's Ilyas Akamash who it is that's coming on. Certainly a live wire on the occasions that I've caught Vallecano this season, as that's decent play down the near side from Pacha trying to create the space up against Daniel Munoz. At the end, he wins a throw-in, the 34-year-old Uruguayan. There's the ball now in hand of man on the near side, but it is indeed going to be Akamash who comes on, and while this is a shock, on he comes to replace Izzy Palathon. That has very much caught me off guard, but he is on a yellow card. He's looked a little bit more tired in the last 5 minutes or so. On comes Akamash to try and create the difference.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly a player capable of doing so. I agree as well. From what I've seen from him, he has been, you know, a real live wire for Rayo Vallecano. And Palathon, he's had a disappointing game, isn't he? His last action is going to be that missed free kick. He's not popped up in the spaces that he'll have wanted to do so in 31 years of age, so maybe wasn't able to carry out the rest of the game in the end, but you think you just keep him on for that leadership that they're going to need in these final moments.
Yeah, Sis has done well to win the ball back in midfield in the meantime, but Palace are able to get the ball clear through Lacroix, gathered in midfield by Wharton. Sis putting in another challenge. Here's Akamash with his first touches of the evening. We'll feed Ratti over on the far side. A reminder, that is now all 5 changes made by Rayo Vallecano, so unless there is a concussion for either side, all this game goes to extra time. That's all Inigo Perez can do for the rest of this one. He's just got to hope with 12 minutes left to go, his side can find something to get themselves back level in this one. Here's Mendy long lofted ball over on the far side, looking towards Ratiu. It's a really poor header from Mitchell. Here's the chance now. Ratiu is a Peltier away from a couple, saved by Henderson at a narrow angle and cleared away well by Mitchell towards Pino further down the other end of the field. Huge opportunity again for Rayo Vallecano inside the penalty area. Again, they almost forced themselves into too narrow of an angle. This time Dean Henderson can get involved and Palace live to fight another day.
Yeah, he's not had too much to do so far there, Dean Henderson, but he has finally come up with something for Crystal Palace. It's a mistake from Mitchell. We haven't said that too much so far. Break off though, Vallecano attacking again.
Cameo driving forward down the near side. Fee Chavaria, ball into the box isn't a bad one, but Palace again can deal with it. Alamal unable to cause enough problems, and Crystal Palace can get clear, but Vallecano will still come forward with their tails up, trying to cause enough of a problem to get themselves back level. It's about a sustained spell of pressure you feel at this stage of the game for Rayo Vallecano to force the error from Crystal Palace. We haven't seen too many from the Eagles so far this evening, as Lejeune will go for goal from 40 yards out, and well, you can see why Izzy Palathon took that free kick, because that was poor from Lejeune, and all of a sudden the pressure is relieved.
Yeah, I don't think his teammates will appreciate that one too much. They had a decent attack building there, did the Spanish side, and Lejeune, he just lines up. You said it earlier, he can strike one. I've got no doubt about that one as well. The way that he hits it isn't too bad. But in the end, it is well wide of the mark. Palace now going to make their second change of the game as well. Yeremy Pino, he's going to make where he's so unlucky not to have got on the score sheet. I don't think you can hit a free kick better without actually finding the back of the net. But he's going to be replaced in the end. It's going to be number 29, Evan Gasson.
Fantastic performance from Yeremy Pino this evening. Really, really impressive from the young Spaniard. Perfect example of why he's going to the World Cup with La Rojas this summer. Really, really impressive player, and he'll be a real live wire off the bench, you feel, for Spain. Probably unlikely to start in that side, but certainly a great option coming off the bench, you feel, and a really important role that he's played tonight. Evan Gesson, though, comes on, a bit more physicality up top, a bit more control on the ball, a little bit less of a risk taker, and certainly somebody who can cause issues inside the penalty area as well for Crystal Palace. But right now it's all Rayo Vallecano. They're going to look to come forward again down the far side. Challenge comes in though on Akumash. It's Chadi Riyad who's won it, and it's Chadi Riyad who will come forward. He was trying to win a free kick there, was Riyad off of Diaz, but the centre midfielder's clever, doesn't go into the back of the young Moroccan, and now an opportunity for Vallecano to come forward once again. Here's Akumash over on the far side. His attempted ball forward, intercepted well, out of play for a Vallecano throw-in over on the far side. Here's Sis. It's almost like they've gone to a back three now. Rayo Vallecano, back three of Sis, Lejeune and Mendy. Sensible. You feel like both Ratiu and Chavaria can offer a fair bit going forward. Get them as high up the field as possible. Go man for man with Palace and hope that your players have got the quality one-on-one with those of Crystal Palace to cause issues. Akumash, lovely turn away there from Chadi Riyad. That should be a yellow card for the Moroccan. Indeed it is. First blemish on his block sheet this evening, because he's been fantastic. But lovely skill from Akumash, his fellow Moroccan, to skip away and win the free kick.
Yeah, brilliant from Akumash. First real bit of quality, isn't it, from him there since coming on. You are right, Riyad doesn't even bother to appeal that one against the referee. He knows immediately what's coming. He's been beaten, so he just drags his man back. He thinks the set piece is more easily defendable, but Akumash going forward in that situation.
Diaz, ball swung to the centre of the penalty area. Sis will nod it down, straight towards goal comes in from Cameo, but it's over the crossbar on the volley on his left boot and out of play for a goal kick. It wasn't a controlled effort, to say the least, from the Vallecano. Number 10 brings it down with his thigh on the volley, straight towards goal, always moving away from Dean Henderson, and in the end comfortably over the crossbar. I would just say, by the way, after that foul from Chadi Riyad, the camera panned to him, he was taking some very, very deep breath. Don't be surprised to see either Chris Richards or Jefferson Lerma sorting into that back three at some point in the near future, whether it's just to kill time or to try and secure that back three, because Riyad looks absolutely dead on his feet out there at the moment, but he's certainly still giving it his all. 83 minutes gone in Leipzig this evening. Independent of Chief Studio-based commentary. It's Crystal Palace 1, Rayo Vallecano 0. A reminder that whoever wins this evening, it is going to be a historic night for that football club. Crystal Palace, it's their first ever season in Europe. It's their first ever European final, and they've got a chance to make history this evening. For Rayo Vallecano, it's only their second season in major European competition, and they've got a chance to win their first ever European trophy. But they're a goal behind, courtesy of Jean-Philippe Mateta. However, coming forward, they now come down the left-hand side. Here it is, central now with Diaz. Ball forward to Akumash. Was he fouled from behind there by Gesson? Referee says no. Akumash furious. Palace will look to come forward as Strand Larsen drops deep, but his pass is poor. Lejeune will gather over on the far side. Feeds Sis. Sis down the line finds Ratiu. Ratiu held up well by Kamada. We'll go back to Lejeune on halfway. Lejeune now back into the centre circle for Mendy. Mendy will then move it near side for Chavaria. Down the line feeds Pacha. Back to Chavaria once more. They're having to be patient here, Rayo Vallecano, because Crystal Palace is doing well and not biting to put the press on. Here's Ratiu over on the far side. Feeds Sis. Poor touch from him. Wharton wins the ball back. Strand Larsen turns and is brought down by Mendy, who gets his yellow card for breaking up a counter-attack. He knew straight away that was going to be a yellow card and immediately waved to the referee that it wasn't a yellow card. He can have no complaints.
No, definitely can't. That's all credit though to Jorgen Strand Larsen. I mean, it's lovely skill, isn't it? He just knocks it through the legs of Mendy there. He has him beaten and he's probably going to be racing away on the counter-attack. Mendy again making the point that it's his first foul in the game. It's nothing to do with that though. It's the fact you've just hauled a man down when he's had the beating of you and he's about to race away and maybe create a big chance. So can't have any complaints about that one. Credit as well to the Rayo Vallecano supporters, by the looks of things, still going absolutely mental behind the other goal. I imagine it's now probably different in the Palace and the nerves have started to kick in. Obviously from the highs of scoring that opening goal and the sort of momentum they got from it, that's sort of slowed down now and they're really having to dig deep.
Looks to be a fantastic atmosphere in Leipzig this evening, it really does. And I'm sure that will continue throughout the night, no matter the results, as Mitchell does well to put the squeeze on there. Andre Ratiu, and that's going to be a goal kick for Rayo Vallecano. More tears flooding around the Vallecano end. She looks a little bit older than that poor lad earlier on, so I can maybe excuse that a little bit. We're also a bit further towards the final whistle. It's been a very emotional night already for these two sides, and for both, you can imagine it's going to be even more emotional once the final whistle comes, as Ismail Assar has been fouled there by Mendy. No second yellow card though given to the Vallecano substitutes. I think you're absolutely right, with cameras just panned towards the Crystal Palace and they do look a little bit nervous. That round of applause for the Palace players looks a little bit more muted than it did about 5 or 10 minutes ago, and you can understand why. It's nail-biting stuff at the Red Bull Arena this evening. Here's Daichi Kamada though for the Eagles. Tries to turn it around the corner. He struck it straight into the body of Pathé Ismail Sis, and it's out of play for a throw-in over on the far side. We really are cold-hearted, Josh. The fact we're laughing so much at these tears. Yeah, absolutely. This is another third person the camera is panned to who is crying in that Rayo Vallecano end. You've got to feel for them. It's never nice to watch a team lose in a final, but I think we've both been there before, and it's obviously not pleasant, but there's still time. This game has been so entertaining that you can imagine there is going to be another couple of chances for Rayo Vallecano.
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, I think you've been in that situation probably more than me, Luke. My team doesn't tend to get to many of these European finals or anything like that, but I mean, you can only imagine that happening. I mean, the Palace players, as we've said, Riyad looked absolutely shattered earlier on, didn't it? And that's sort of just going to have to continue. He's still on the pitch as well, and you can imagine that might make some mistakes. The nerves might really kick in for the players as well. They're playing with such adrenaline. You can sort of think that that's not going to happen to them. But 3 minutes left to go. You feel like there's still going to be that big chance for Vallecano.
Yeah, absolutely. Akamash, far side for Vallecano. Feeds Sis, who's gotten away from Kamada. He's got to be careful. The Japanese international, he's already on. In fact, he's not already on a yellow card. I could have sworn he'd been yellow carded by now. Kamada, he probably should have been yellow carded for that, I'll be honest. And that's why I thought he was going to be in a bit of trouble. But no yellow card for the midfielder. Still, though, a chance for Pedro Diaz to swing this ball into the penalty area. We are right-footed outswinger over on the far side. It's a decent ball in towards the penalty spot. Lejeune's up. Who's that come off of last? It is indeed the French centre-half, and it's out of play for a goal kick. They just haven't had that quality in the final third, Rayo Vallecano.
No, they haven't, and that's the difference between the two sides. It's why Palace were picked as the favourites already coming into this game. because Palace have just got that star quality in the final third. They've got the players that were linked with those big moves, like AC Milan, like Jean-Philippe Mateta has been, and they've just had that star quality factor about them going forward. They could have easily made this 2 or 3-0. The fact it's only 1 is a bit of a miracle in its sense for Vallecano. They could have been dead and buried in this game, but they're still fighting up until the final minutes.
Yeah, they certainly are. Here though come Palace, looking to try and kill it off. Here's Munoz, corner of the penalty area for Ismail Assar, lays it off to Strand Larsen, trying to move the ball forward, can't get it past the man, then long ball feeds Alamau. Can he get it under control down the other end of the field? Lacroix's defended it brilliantly. Canvo's gone down. What's the referee given? A foul against the Brazilian forward. That felt like a huge opportunity. Palace were caught far too high at the field, and Alamau just could not get the ball under control.
No, he couldn't. He's not that sort of striker, is he, Alamau, where you think he's going to bring it down and then just sprint towards goal. He doesn't have that pace about him, and in the end he ends up in a real battle of it with Cambo. Just puts his head in harm's way, and it's really good defending, because then he takes the high foot, puts himself in harm's way, which is exactly what you need at this stage in a final. We're into the final minute now of normal time, and it's still just 1 goal in it.
Yeah, still just the 1 goal in it. How? Neither me nor Josh are quite sure, but it does mean that this game still has plenty to play for going into the dying embers. Feels like there'll be a reasonable amount of stoppage time come the end of this second half, but maybe not quite enough for Rayo Vallecano as Palace win a throw-in down the right end of the field. From their point of view, Munoz G's up those in red and blue behind the goal, and behind him as well in that stand on the near side. Munoz will look to launch one of those longer throw-ins, shall we say, into the penalty area. This one not bad, but Strand Larsen can't challenge for it. Patcher heads up into the air. Wharton gathers in midfield, feeds Munoz once again. Kamada plays a decent ball into Strand Larsen. Holds it up well. Here's Ismail Assar into Wharton, inside the penalty area, away from a couple. Adam Wharton challenged well by Mendy. Thought it should be a corner. In the end, it's a goal kick given, and it's 5 minutes for Vallecano to save this one. Goal kick taken quickly by Bataya. Decent ball down the far side, looking towards Cameo. He's held up brilliantly though by Evan Gesson. Sis will move it inside now for Diaz. Diaz onto the near side for Chevalier. Still bombing down this near side, even at this late stage of the game. Patcher, decent ball inside. Diaz with an opportunity to pull the trigger. Instead, will float it towards the back post. Akamush there was waiting, but it's Mitchell with the header away, and Mitchell will drive forward, trying to get it away from danger. Ratiu though does well to hold it up, although he's given the ball away, and now an opportunity for Palace to kill it off. Mitchell driving forward, Strand Larsen in the middle, Mitchell to finish it. Oh, he took too long. He's won the corner off of Mendy, but he absolutely should have fed Jorgen Strand Larsen to win the game for Crystal Palace. He's left in a heap, Tyreek Mitchell. Huge moments in this one, and that absolutely should have been the winner.
It should have. I don't think they'll complain at getting a corner at this stage in the game, and just a chance to wind down the clock. But that pass has got to go forward earlier, hasn't it, from Tyreek Mitchell? He looks up multiple times. You can see Strand Larsen making the run, and by the time he tries to do it, it's just too late. Mendy gets back superbly and makes the sliding tackle. Perez is happy about that one from his defender, but with where this is on the pitch now, Palace can waste a good minute and a half at least here.
Yeah, they can. I will say, by the way, that decision from Andre Ratiu to try and run that ball out of play, decision of tiredness. The decision from Mitchell to not cross the ball in, decision of tiredness. It absolutely is, and you can understand why, because both teams have thrown absolutely everything into this one. Corner was taken short. Patch has given away a free kick over on the far side. He's now been yellow carded. The experienced Uruguayan just pulling back on the shirt of Daichi Kamada. Correct decision from our Italian referee this evening, and ultimately I don't think he can have too many complaints, Alfonso Patcher, as Palace, as Josh has said, have got the ball down the right end of the field. Just Ismail Assar and Strand Larsen anywhere near the penalty area. Kamada will take this free kick short to Evan Gesson, who does brilliantly to run towards the byline, crossing towards Sarr, pulled down. Referee says no penalty, no appeal from Ismail Assar, and now Vallecano have the ball back. Strand Larsen has won it brilliantly in midfield, and he'll look to step towards the penalty area. He's then lost out to Cameo. Was he fouled there, Cameo, by Strand Larsen? He was, and that works out okay for Vallecano, because they'll get the ball back. On the Palace have killed some valuable seconds in that exchange. 2 minutes of the 5 left to play. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Crystal Palace 1, Rayo Vallecano 0. Cameo's just asked the referee how long left, and he has said, yeah, he's given the thumbs up. He knows that there's still time for Vallecano to get a goal in this one, but they have to move it quickly and with some quality. Bataya, long free kick sent towards the edge of the penalty area. Mendy gets up for it. Header won by Canvo. Then ball gathered by Strand Larsen, but he's launched that ball out of play down the other end of the field. What's he done there, Jorgen Strand Larsen? Chance now for the long throw for Vallecano. Really odd decision from the Norwegian. Patrick to hurl this one in. It's not a bad one towards the near post, but Lacroix can head away. It'll be gathered by Diaz 30 yards away from goal. He's going to strike from distance, and they think it took a deflection, Rayo Vallecano, but it's out of play for a goal kick. I mean, we go from one odd decision from Strand Larsen to another from Pedro Diaz. We'll see from the replay, was it a corner? But so bizarre.
Yeah, it didn't look a corner. I mean, I can't believe he's taken the shot on there. Pedro Diaz. Everyone keeps asking the officials how much time is left. I thought they would be displaying it in the stadium. That's usually the rules, isn't it? But apparently not. And yeah, Diaz there just takes the shot on from range. His teammates will not thank him at all for that. Even though he's clutching at straws, trying to get the corner. It's just the wrong decision entirely.
Yeah, it certainly is. Palace haven't held the ball up with that long goal kick forward. Strand Larsen just hasn't done that brilliantly since coming on. So Bataya once again has a chance to launch the ball long. Lejeune's up for it. Chadi Riyad though will gather the loose ball and he will launch it long, looking for Strand Larsen, who's left one-on-one with Mendy. This time Strand Larsen does bring it down well. Was he fouled by Mendy? Referee says no, and Palace lose the ball once again. But they've only got 30 seconds here, Vallecano. They've got to move the ball forward quickly. Here's Akumash, far side, one-on-one with Tyreek Mitchell, gets on his back in support. They've still got to move it forward quickly. Inigo Perez is on the pitch telling his players to launch it long. Long ball sent forward. Alamar with the last chance, wide of the post, brought it down with 5 yards of the space, 5 yard space on the edge of the penalty area, and that was the opportunity. And it's gone begging for the Brazilian.
Yeah, that was the chance. I mean, how he even gets the time and space on the edge of the box. It's a bit poor from Crystal Palace. They just sort of let it off him and the Brazilian takes it down. That was the moment for Vallecano. Can't get it on target though. Palace surely nearly there.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think Inigo Perez knows that it. I think Jean-Philippe Mateta knows that he's partying on the side of the pitch, and indeed it is it! Crystal Palace are European champions. They've won the Europa Conference League. They hold a European trophy for the first time in their history. Their first European campaign ends in success. Despair for Rayo Vallecano, tears around the ground, but absolute jubilation for Crystal Palace. It's a brilliant farewell gift for Oliver Glasner and Daichi Kamada. It's Jean-Philippe Mateta, the difference maker, and it is jubilation in South London, full time in Leipzig. It finishes Crystal Palace 1, Rayo Vallecano 0.
Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck! Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck!